Yes.
So I wanted to let me see, what am I supposed to do? Okay, so I'm gonna introduce our moderator because Michael and I are excited to share with you, and we think having a moderator is going to help keep us on track. And then I'll briefly share the flow of the day. So today we are so grateful to have Reverend Rhetta serving as our moderator, as our interlocutor, as our spiritual presence, as our elder and grounded being. So we are so excited to have Reverend Rhetta here. And Reverend Rhetta, I'm reading a little bit from her bio. She's an interfaith minister. She's a facilitator, artist, fabulous, fabulous vocalist, healer, and her work encompasses the intersections of spirituality, creativity, and activism, all rooted in the intention to work and live into a more just world. So we are very excited to have Reverend Retta with us today. And she comes on and talks to you, I'm just gonna let you know, basically Reverend Retta is gonna open us up, and then we're gonna have part one of the Chaconne with earphones, and then we have a little bit of conversation about that, and then you'll get to hear parts 2 and 3. We'll have a little more conversation, and then there'll be a Q&A at the very end. So did I cover it all?
I think you did. Closed captions.
Yes.
Turn on your closed captions if you want to hear the words, see the words that are being spoken in the Chaconne, because it's an audio recording that we'll be listening to first. So that should help.
Yes. Yes. All
Thanks.
right. Reverend Retta.
Peace and blessings, everyone. It is such an honor to join Amanda and Michael today, and each of you as we explore this incredible piece of music, this piece of art, and the conversation we'll share between. I'd like to start us off by inviting each of us to take a deep breath and to really settle in the place where we are sitting or lying. Just take a deep breath. It is permission to arrive fully here. And as you are breathing and noticing and arriving, I want to sing for you a very brief invocation. It's a wordless prayer to support our settling inwardly. So, hopefully, we are all settling in and ripe and ready for music and conversation. So, we're going to turn to the beginning of our listening and listen to the first part of the Chaconne Emancipated. And we recommend that you use earphones if you have them available.
153 years ago, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, marking the first time that the United States government took action on behalf of Black people. He wrote that on the first day of January in the year of our Lord 1863, all persons held as slaves in any state where the people were in rebellion against the United States would be thenceforward and forever free. And the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, would recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons and do no act or acts to repress such persons or any of them in any efforts they would make for their actual freedom. 100 years later, an Alabama preacher addressed over 250,000 people in Washington, D.C. on the anniversary of Lincoln's proclamation. He said, 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. This promise that all men, yes, Black men as well as white men, were guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt, so we have come to our nation's capital to cash this check. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his full citizenship rights. Many of our white brothers and sisters, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. They have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as a Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horror of police brutality. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and the Negro in New York has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and come to live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. And when we do this, when we allow freedom to reign, we will speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will all join hands and sing in the words of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Phew.
Yes, yes, I see some hands, right? Amazing. Amanda and Michael, thank you so much for that powerful, powerful expression, artistic expression of this important moment that we get to celebrate and recognize together. Yeah, the word powerful comes up for me. A power coming together, the power of your voice and words, Amanda, the power of your sound, the violin, and your passion, Michael. And so we'd like to invite each of you to drop in the chat a word or phrase, some expression of how that experience was for you. So if you take a moment and share, we get to kind of see what was happening in our Zoom room.
Whew.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think there's a little bit there. We have some folks coming. Yeah, come on and don't be shy. We'd love to hear how that was. Wow. Yeah, we have wow. And so as you are writing, we're going to turn to our conversation. And I'd like to begin with Michael. I see powerful there, hope. Yeah, yeah, there's intensity of feeling in words and music. We'll probably come back to that. But yeah, please do share, moving the soul. Yeah, so Michael, we want to start with you. So, in your upcoming chapter on art and social change, you've mentioned having to face and let go of your ego while working on this piece in particular.
Mm.
So, yeah, we're going to share a little bit about what your artistic process was like creating this piece.
Wow. Well, letting go of the ego was a huge part. And actually coming to grips with my ego and recognizing what was actually there and what is actually there was really enlightening. And I have to say, even listening to this performance today, I recognize, wow, there was a lot of ego still there. I mean, yes, this is a powerful and wow kind of performance created, but the ego is constantly moving and changing through our lives as we have these experiences. And we have to understand, like with the Chaconne, I think one of the biggest difficulties I had was collaboration, because it's a solo work. I learned it actually with all three of my major teachers, the three different conservatories I attended. I did it on my master's program, on my doctorate program.
At Juilliard.
At Juilliard, I studied with a gentleman who was born in 1897, and he, so it is history, and it's rooted in Western European music. However, it is so spiritual.
So spiritual.
And within the first week of dating this beautiful woman, I had to play the Chaconne for her, never intending that we were going to do this. And of course, I wanted it my way. And yes, so that's
kind of like marriage. I wanted it my way.
Well, I can imagine that there have probably been some shifts in that particular conversation. And so I want to ask you, Michael, a little bit, since you mentioned playing the piece for Amanda early on in your relationship. Also, how would you say your ego showed up in the process of working with Amanda once you all got to the point that you knew that there'd be something magical about putting words with the piece?
I think, again, well, my ego was showing up in that I've discovered that either I ride on the plane of being better than, so I am better than this. I want to put all this music in. I don't want to make any cuts. I don't want to keep it all. And then I'm also writing not good enough. And they kind of go, and this has been a discovery. I didn't realize it was going on when we were creating this. This has been something that I've been exploring. I mean, we created this back in 2014. This performance was
2016.
This performance was from 2016. So now 7 years later, I mean, there's been a lot of work and that we've gone through to find out, oh, well, this is where that ego is showing up every day, and it's something that's been, it's been established, I guess, since I was 5 years old, 5 years old, and going to the types of schools that I went to, I think it was embedded, and it's been kind of an unwinding process. And I think the Chaconne Emancipated was just the beginning of the journey.
Even the name of it, Emancipated.
Yes. And, there was a lot, and it was kind of the first time when people were really, I mean, of course, I've been reprimanded for things that I've done before, but people would say, the Chaconne does not need to be emancipated. They would come right back to me with that. And that was difficult for me. I thought, am I doing the right thing? Am I keeping my art form the way it should be?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, tell us a little bit about how Amanda impacted that conversation and how it was working with her. Yeah.
Wow. Well, she brought in a mediator. And I thought, what the heck is going on here? I don't do stuff this way. But actually, one of my former students who also understood Amanda's racial justice journey, and who also understood myself as a teacher, she kind of came in.
Yeah, her name is Frances Miller, and she had a background in peace studies and social change, and she was a violinist, and I'm a theater artist. And so she was helping us translate from theater to music, but also from classical music. And the Chaconne,
yes,
when he said, we named it Emancipated, because we also wanted to free the Chaconne from the constraints of the concert hall.
Right.
And all of those conservatories, to make it like people music.
And all, yeah.
Go on.
It's really been liberated I've been liberated. I mean, this is probably a main thing. Like the Chaconne has been on this process of working it through has been like the beginning part of my liberation as an artist.
Mhm.
And then I went further, and then I realized, wow, even in the creative part of this, after the fact, my lens as a white male in America, as a white classical violinist in America, was still very, very small. And so I
Mhm.
went and did a lot deeper work, and so I could understand fully, well, not fully, but have a deeper understanding of what what it means to actually have a universal language for the arts,
Mm.
rather than going around and saying, "Oh, okay, well, this, we appreciate this Russian composer, this Asian composer, this American, Copland or Shostakovich or something, and it's universal. Everyone appreciates." But this is beyond that.
Mhm.
This is like melding cultures together within the music, and I didn't actually recognize that at the time,
Mhm.
but now it's all coming together.
Yeah, are there some ways that you can think of in this moment, like you're the first sort of birthing of this idea that the piece is much bigger and broader than sort of the confinement it had when it was in the conservatory? And again, I'm wondering about how Amanda influenced that sort of opening the piece up from the way you had learned it and making it more accessible. Yeah.
Well, I think a big thing for me, beyond like the one thing was the text. I
Mhm.
mean, from a technical
Huge.
standpoint,
It's
that
huge.
that was the a big thing for me to be able to follow. I thought I was doubling as a theater artist,
Mhm.
because here I am focusing on this text, trying to follow this piece that the notes would line up at a certain word. Having said that,
Mhm.
I don't know if I would do it the same way today.
Uh,
We probably wouldn't,
Mhm,
because art is fluid,
mhm,
especially music.
mhm.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think one of the other things about the Chaconne that's different uh, when performing it in this context was
Mhm.
that you melded it with African American spirituals.
Yes.
So he kept interrupting the Chaconne
Mhm.
with Black spirituals.
And I did not know these pieces. Not,
No,
I mean, yeah, most
no,
of
you
them.
didn't. I mean, you. It
This
took,
was,
and this was like a 3-year process. Let's just be clear. This was like a ongoing
Yeah.
uh, creative process,
yes.
learning process.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Gosh, maybe in part two, we could ask more questions. I'm so curious about how that felt in the beginning stages when you stopped part of the Chaconne and heard the sort of the influence of the spiritual, like how that influenced, how you felt and how you played when you came back in. I'd be, curious about those kinds of things. And let you sit with that. And I think I want to turn toward Amanda. And Amanda, you said that prior to meeting Michael, you did not like classical music, that you in fact hated the violin. Pretty strong, pretty strong expression. So, two questions for you. What changed for you? And also, is there something you can share with us about kind of why you hated the violin?
Okay. So let me start with I think what I didn't like about classical music, besides the harpsichord, which I still really, really hate. But what I didn't like about it was how it's when I was in school, it was made to be like it was better than any other music. And I just hated that. I hated that it was put on a pedestal and that black musics were not, you know. So I think what I hated was racism. But what I
Ah,
said was I hated classical music.
yeah, yeah.
And and when I heard Michael play the Chaconne, I also told him, I didn't tell you this, Rhetta, but I told Michael, I was like, oh yeah, I don't like classical music. I don't like Bach. I really don't like Mozart. And what I really loved about Michael was he didn't take offense.
Mm.
He took it on like a challenge. He was like, I bet you I can find you some pieces you would like. And I was like, I bet you, well, why don't you try? And actually he did. He found a piece of Mozart that I actually loved.
Ah,
Remember that? And I was like, okay. And then he played me the Chaconne,
mhm,
and like someone said, it was soul music.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Someone in the
mm,
chat
Oh,
said
okay.
something similar. It was so soulful.
mm,
I realized, okay, I just need to open up a bit here. That's what
mm.
I realized. I need to open up a bit here.
Oh, that is a beautiful story and brilliant of Michael to be able to figure out to take that as an invitation rather than
Yes.
a cut off. That was beautiful.
And I
So
think that's a big lesson, actually. Michael, maybe because I've said those comments around other people who have not taken it that way. They have not been happy.
mhm,
It's 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 been like a shutdown.
yes,
And so it was interesting. You didn't shut down at all.
I
mhm,
didn't.
yeah, yeah.
And you didn't think I was stupid either.
Maybe
Some
I
people
kind of
think I'm stupid.
maybe I was a little interested in you too.
Oh, I
Ah, oh, okay.
get another motive.
Yeah.
Well, it was a beautiful motive and has led to this moment. So,
Yeah.
so glad you did that you kept on. So, Amanda, how did you see implicit racial bias or white domination come up as you were performing or creating the piece?
Well, when we first did it, I was really angry. We did part one. We did part one. It took us years to do part one, actually. So
Mm.
anyway, but the first time we did part one was soon after Ferguson, I think.
Ah,
I was really angry, upset. This is 2014, and we
mhm,
were at an event, a music event, and it was all white except for me. And Michael, the organizers, and Michael were like, "Can you guys do it?" And I was kind of, I don't know. And Mike was like, "Yes, we got to do it. We got to do it." So I get up there and we do it, you
mhm,
know, and and it was a weird situation. You could see that people were, even though it was the Chaconne, I mean,
mhm,
it was spirituals, but it was their music. It was classical music.
mhm.
Uh, it was a very alienated audience, and we heard later that someone said she felt like I was yelling at her
Ah,
in my bringing of Dr. King's speech.
mhm,
Um, so, so, so part of the journey
mhm,
has been like wanting to express Dr. King's anger in 1963. People think I Have a Dream is really, I have a dream,
mhm.
But 1963 was after Birmingham. I mean, 1963 was hard. So
Yeah.
when went up there, and he talked about the horrors of police brutality.
Mhm,
He went up there, and people were in a lot of pain.
yeah.
And so I wanted to bring that, disrupt people's idea that King is a dreamer,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
really make sure that they know he was an organizer, and he was riding all these emotions too.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen that change over the years as you have performed the piece in terms of
Oh
the
yeah.
audience
Oh
reaction?
yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm,
Um, People have loved it. I mean, yeah,
mhm,
it's been loved. And actually, as people will see in parts two and three, when
mhm,
we went to rallies and stuff and vigils,
mhm.
we would often do part two, which you'll see,
Yes.
which is the voice of Assata Shakur, former Black Panther,
Mhm,
and because it's shorter,
mhm,
uh, but also, believe it or not, it's also extremely. I mean, it's sad and it's hopeful.
mhm, mhm.
So I guess that's what I would say. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think before we, because we're about to go into part two, Michael, I think I'd like to come back to you and ask you that question about how the spirituals sort of influenced how you, what kind of shape you were in, how you played after hearing the spiritual when you went back to the piece. What can you share with us about what that was like for you, what you felt, how the pieces continue to sort of open you up around, yeah.
It, well, when I would play the spirituals and when I do play the spirituals in the Chaconne,
Mhm.
I even to this day I have I have self-doubt
Mhm.
in my own self that Oh, maybe because, my where I am coming from in my background, um, but I also now have more of a recognition. We did a show in Philadelphia, The Power of the Spiritual, and where I really learned a lot about the different pieces and so I it just gave me I still to this day have self-doubt about playing them in the Chaconne and making them from me.
Mhm.
Like am I worthy? Am I enough? Am I
Mm.
enough?
Mm.
Should I be a black violinist playing this? Would this
Mhm.
be more
Authentic.
yeah, authentic?
Mhm. Mhm.
Even as much as I want to channel my sensitivity and creativity and soulfulness,
Mhm.
I have I don't have that in my ancestry,
Mhm. Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that I yeah, and I think a lot of the arts and performance there is a certain amount of acting going on, and you put on a certain face, and I try to transmute it as much as possible,
Mhm. Mhm.
and definitely the way that the spirituals are woven in the Chaconne, I believe that. I full-heartedly believe that. I actually play the Chaconne on a regular basis with and without the
I know
spirituals.
now it's hard. Remember?
Yeah, yeah, I play but with both, and actually the entire Chaconne has taken on a whole new spirit. What do the spirituals do? I think what do the spirituals do for me? The Chaconne for me is like they make it more spiritual for me,
Ah. Ah.
actually. So I
Yes.
think because that's actually quote unquote my music,
Right, 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 right.
that I grew
Yeah.
up with.
Right.
Mhm.
I was, groomed in that, but now it's taken on an entirely different meaning, and I have those spirituals to thank.
Mhm. That's beautiful. You describe a little bit, I think, how race where it goes, right? There's a point in which it's uncomfortable, but as we continue to do the work with courage, right, we get to hopefully grow and enter, as you call that spiritual realm. I want to thank you for your that vulnerability, answering that question, and point us back to part two. I want us to have another chance to do some listening. So Mark is going to tune us in.
And this is actually a video this time. This
Ah,
a live performance.
beautiful. All right. So we'll see you on the other side.
5 years later, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968. Amidst the rage and despair that shook America, a young woman from Alabama took the name Assata Shakur. She wrote affirmation. Affirmation. I believe in living. I believe in the spectrum of beta days and gamma people. I believe in sunshine, in windmills and waterfalls, in tricycles and rocking chairs. I believe that a seed grows into a sprout, and a sprout grows into a tree. I believe in rain and tears and in the blood of infinity. I believe in life. I believe in living. And I have seen the death parade march through the torso of the earth, sculpting mud bodies in its path. I have seen the destruction of daylight and seen bloodthirsty maggots prayed to and saluted. I have seen the kind become the blind, and the blind become the bind in one easy lesson. I have walked on cut glass. I have eaten crow and blunder bread and breathed the stench of indifference. I have been locked up by the lawless, handcuffed by the haters, gagged by the greedy, and if I know anything at all, it's that a wall is just a wall. Nothing more at all. It can be brought down. I believe in living. I believe in living. I believe in birth. I believe in the sweat of love and in the fire of truth. And I believe that a lost ship steered by tired, seasick sailors can still be guided home to port. I believe in living. I believe in birth. I believe in the sweat of love and in the fire of truth. I believe in living. I believe in birth. I believe in the sweat of love and in the fire of truth. I believe in living. I believe in birth. I believe in the sweat of love and in the fire of truth. Many of our white brothers and sisters, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. They have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. Many of our white brothers and sisters have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. Many of our white brothers and sisters have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. All persons held as slaves shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free.
Wow. Yeah, somebody wrote in the chat for the first time, wow. I just want to start there, wow. And I want to invite you again to drop into the chat what that was like for you, a word or a phrase, or what that invokes or inspires in each of you. Really powerful. Thank you again, Amanda and Michael, for y'all's the commitment to that depth of intensity and truth. The words holy rage came to me as I was listening. Holy, holy, and filled with a powerful intensity. So thank you so much for that. So as folks are sharing in the chat, I want to head us back to our conversation and start with you, Amanda. So Amanda, even though you and Michael harmonized together so well in the piece as we all just experienced, could you give us an example of a difficult conversation as you were working on the piece and tell us how you got unstuck?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I'm just struck. I mean, I'm struck by Asata's words, honestly,
Yes. Yes.
because, if you know anything about her life, and if you don't, Google her. But the fact that she comes through that and says, I believe in living, it's such a call. And so conversations um, there was a point at which I felt like I don't know if the work the work that I'm doing with Michael is I felt like it was getting it wasn't political enough. It wasn't fierce enough. This is before we had gotten to part 2. Honestly, we were still working on part 1, and I was really questioning the violin. I was questioning classical music. This was really all around Ferguson,
Mhm.
and so we had a conversation in a coffee shop, and I was like, okay, honestly, straightforwardly, I don't know if you're really uh, if you want to take on white supremacy. I mean, that's the bottom line. I just feel like that's what I'm really about. And I felt like, Michael was still influenced by or living in standards and stuff. And I wanted it hard. I just I wanted what we got,
Yes.
ultimately what you saw.
Mhm.
But I had to put it to him straight like that. And then ultimately, and in that conversation, he said, "You don't really know what I can do with the violin." I remember that. He was like, "You don't know what I can do with the violin." He
Mhm.
was really passionate about it.
Mhm.
And I think, and you have to give me a chance. And I just remember, you know, uh, looking him in the eyes, really, and being like, okay, I'm gonna give you a chance.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, so for me, what was important was to really acknowledge where there was a gap in what we were doing and in our relationship, and having the courage to bring it forward,
Mhm.
and 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 on my side again, also then having the courage to trust, to believe what he said.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think there's, I'm an artist, so when another artist says to me, "You don't know what I can do,"
Mhm.
I'm, you have me. Okay,
Yeah.
show me. I'm willing to be shown.
Mhm.
And so yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
and what I want to say also to everyone is that, when you're having difficult conversations about racism, and ours was about white supremacy, I mean, all kinds of things are mixed in because of our personal relationship and artistic relationship. Um, that's why I decided to give you all the book as a gift to you, because given our time, it was going to be too difficult for me to run through all the steps in a difficult conversation. But I do want you to have those tools.
Mhm.
So, Mark, if you could put that in the chat again, that would be awesome.
I,
What do you want to
well,
say?
I just want to say that,
Yeah, I think you have to speak.
yes, I said, you don't know what I can do with the violin. And I remember that conversation. And now, and looking back on it, I realized I didn't know what I can do with the violin. And
Mm.
I'm very grateful to have that conversation and go beyond that conversation and have done a lot of the work.
Right. And
And
also white supremacy. It wasn't just the violin. It was like
the
breaking
implicit,
out of his
breaking out of my
framework.
whiteness
Mhm, mhm.
in my interpretations, in my collaborations, in my what I want to present with my art form, how I want to be.
Mhm.
And so that conversation was pivotal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pivotal one for
Yes.
both of us.
And Amy said the music really added. Amy, what I want you to know, Amy is my friend, and what I want you to know is that there was one point at which we were performing that Assata piece. I was literally on stage performing it, and I realized, oh my God, Michael is fueling this
Mhm. Mhm.
in the moment energetically.
Mhm.
I felt him, the energy that was fueling it, and it was real support.
Mhm.
It was real support.
So something very powerful happened there. You knew, Amanda, that you needed to ask for something bigger than the conversation you all were in. And Michael, you didn't know exactly how, but you knew you were ready and willing to show up and be in that conversation. It's a powerful, like a living version of what we want to do as we bring down the walls of racism, right? To be able to
Yes.
come together in these ways and stretch each other, and then to be able to feel his support. So he was actually able to do the thing that you named. He stepped into the invitation and was able to meet you there. So, Michael, could you say something about how you deal with making mistakes as a white man working with the black woman on this piece? And the
Do I
second
make mistakes?
part. Well, if you make mistakes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I actually working with this piece, I think it was a very much of a um there was a I started really listening
Yeah.
in a way that I had never
That's a good point.
listened before.
Mm.
And I would open up and I would rather than becoming defensive and saying, wait a sec, I want my idea to be heard. I would listen. And then we're talking about ego now again.
Yes.
This is a transformation of the ego.
Mhm.
And I would listen and I would embrace that.
Mhm.
And we it was a true collaboration, I think,
Mm.
on this. And when Amanda put that, see, I looked at it originally as a challenge. I wouldn't look at it like that anymore.
Mm.
I don't think of that as a challenge because I think that is almost going back to that conversation. I'm almost thinking, well, yeah, that was my oh, you don't know what I can do.
Mm.
And okay, it worked out, but it was a struggle through it. Now I actually, and I I have this conversation every day. How do I, as a classically trained violinist, going to these institutions that kind of demand perfection,
Mhm.
how do I recognize that the true art is not in the perfection,
Mhm.
embracing the mistakes and allowing things to be imperfect is really more perfect.
Mm.
So embracing my mistakes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and recognizing that they're really not mistakes, they're
Mhm.
mistakes.
Mm. Mm.
They're mistakes.
Mistakes, a beautiful, profound lesson, I think, to share with us. Did you ever feel any shame about how you would deal with how, especially if a mistake felt like it had an impact on Amanda in a particular way? Did you ever feel any shame around that, or how did you handle that?
Well, I think the shame, as far as the mistakes were, I think the shame, when I look back on it,
Mhm.
because that's basically all I have, right? Because I'm just moving forward. But looking back on it, I and today, I think the shame is really in where when when I recognize when I recognize the implicit bias within me, the real, I mean, the racism in me,
Mhm.
when I recognize that and see that that is there, you know, I've been raised in a culture, um, and it is prevalent. I mean, I don't think, you know, being raised in America as a white male, it's almost impossible. So that is there, but I don't think for me to beat myself up over shame is going to help anything. And I think that to lift myself up and be strong in a way that can help others and actually help especially white men. That's what I would like to be able to transform in a way. Um, so the so so shifting the shame, shift the shame. That's what I would like to do. I acknowledge it. I acknowledge it. The word shame for me is almost that carries a lot of weight,
Yeah.
and I think that weight can make it difficult.
Mhm.
And yes, it is a difficult journey, but I don't
The
want it to
shame,
be
yeah.
something that's. I don't want to be tied down
Right.
and not being able to exercise my artistry.
Mm.
So I think that helps break open the flow
Mm.
because I think,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. I think that can be really medicine for a lot of folks just to hear. You know, don't let the shame be a reason to have you separate or move away, but to, you know, that's this business of picking yourself back up, staying engaged, staying in the conversation, working through the shame rather than having it have you move away. Thank you very much for saying that. So yeah, we're moving towards the end, and I want to ask if there's anything else you'd like to say at this place, Amanda. And I know we're going to go right into you talking about the mentoring session. I also want to mention if there's some questions you all have that you'd like to start putting in the chat. We may have a little time for a couple of them. So please begin if you have some questions for either Amanda or Michael to leave them in the chat. So yeah, Amanda, do you have anything else you'd like to share at this point?
Yeah. So first of course, we want to thank you, Reverend Rhetta. Thank you so much.
So welcome.
And thank you to Mark Marafiotti, who's been running our tech and making sure these videos and things come together. So we're appreciative of that. And we're appreciative, of course, to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose actual birthday is today, and to that whole generation of change makers and builders and peacemakers and rebels. So we thank you. And I just also want to say thank you to everybody who showed up today. If you came because you were the friend of someone else who someone invited you to this program. Thank you for trusting them. We want to stay in touch with you. I see Bridget is saying, "What's next?" I think that was the name I saw there. So there's a couple ways that you can stay in touch with us. One is, please, you can get on Michael's YouTube channel. That's where he's mainly
it's
producing.
becoming more and more active, putting
Yeah.
out a lot of material on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, really beautiful music. And then if you really want to keep moving forward with things that I'm doing, you go ahead and get your book, because that will give me your email and you can stay on our list. And as Rhetta said, if you're someone who would like some mentoring in how to do less, how to do differently in the world and still be a part of healing the world, you can reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat. Oh, I want to thank Amanda. Okay, Annalisa, my friend Annalisa is talking now. So those are things I have to say. I do want to stay in touch with you. Michael wants to stay in touch with you. And the ways that you can do that are subscribe to his YouTube channel, get the book that I'm giving away for free as a gift to you. If you want to explore working with me one-on-one for a one-time session about doing your work in the world, I'd love to do that work. I'll make sure to put that email there. What were you going to say, Mike?
Well, no, I just wanted to address a question, actually, that was a direct message to me.
Okay.
I believe, I couldn't remember who did it, but about this, the spirituals that were in the Chaconne, that were woven in the Chaconne Emancipated. They were there, and in the first part, actually, if you did not recognize where they were, it's because a lot of times the Chaconne has, it's a theme and variation. So at the end of each variation, depending on where we were at in the text, we would weave a spiritual into it. Oh, freedom is there, starting on D and then starting on F, and then there's and then we shall overcome, the freedom song, and
Free at last.
Free at last, and then we open with Wade in
Wade
the
in
water.
Water.
Oh, and then I just came from the fountain, which goes by a different name.
Just from the fountain.
But that's not the
Lord,
name of the
just come from the
spiritual, right?
fountain. It has a couple names.
Oh, okay. So and I think and also we do lift every voice.
Yes.
So those are the ones I think that are in. I never really listed them like that, but yes. So they're there.
Beautiful. And it looks like we have a number of questions there. So we're going to close so that those who will need to leave right at 6, you're able to do so without missing any of the program. And then we're prepared to stay on another 5 or 10 minutes to answer some of those questions. So I want to invite everyone, if you will, to go back to that space where we started, taking a nice deep breath in, if you will. Just have to let all that we've just done soak you in even more. And so we invite you to just be with what you received and have it saturate your heart and your being and go with you out into the world. Yeah, so as each of us participates in dismantling the systems that keep us bound. I want to thank you for your presence and thank you for your attention. And so if you have to leave, this will be a perfect place. And so Amanda and Michael, if you want to choose some of those questions to answer.
That would be awesome. Why don't we go into, what's that mode? The mode where we can see everybody. Mark, if you don't mind, like gallery mode or something, that would be awesome. So were there any questions in the chat?
You have to hit
Hit this button. Oh, okay, here we go.
Wow.
There's some comments there. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's a long one.
Yeah.
Oh, Kathleen, of course. So we have some beautiful musicians on this call. So Kathleen is saying, what often strikes me with Western classical music, as it did when I listened to The Power of Amanda speaking and Michael's playing, is that I want to dance and run and move. And I think as a musician myself, that part of what happened for centuries is with Western classical music, is people played it and listened to it without moving their bodies. Yes, it was almost like we got to be stiff.
Right.
And people get mad at audiences, like if they move.
Come on.
Yeah, no, we're not into that. We don't want to do that anymore.
No, even, can you hear me? Even today, even today, classical music audiences don't move very much.
No.
So the music, that's when you discover the music moves.
Yes.
The European music moves, but the people didn't move. So we just gotta let the people move. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's going back to the body.
Yes. Definitely. Want to scroll on that?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
I'll scroll.
you-
Is there anything else? Sylvia says, thank you so much. I appreciate the pro uses art to address problems and acknowledges enormous challenges. Yes. Trying to keep working for love, for justice with love. Victoria says, thank you. Annalisa says, thanks, Amanda Kemp, who's been a beacon for me through decades. We both have kids and keeps me thinking about the world through different eyes. Oh, Annalisa, that's awesome that you quote me.
I just want to say, for me, the hardest part, I don't know. moving so you can see me. I'm moving my body. I am a very analytical person. I'm a mathematician. I'm very transactional. So for me, it's all about doing. And Amanda really teaches me over and over again how to be, which sounds like it's really easy, but not for me, not at all. So I really, really love listening to her.
Thanks, Annalisa. Yeah, I just want to hit on the being thing. I want to say, because I'm also, I have a left brain and all that stuff that happens in academic. But what I want to say, I think we really cannot advance, we cannot evolve our consciousness without getting into the body, and from the body into the heart, and then third into the mind. We need it all, but I do think we got to go in doorways.
Yes. Do you want to keep
Don't
going?
keep scrolling.
I think
Somebody wanted to hear more.
hear more.
Betsy says, I find myself wanting to hear more and more. Oh, okay. Well, Betsy, you can go to my Bandcamp page. There's a lot of me and Michael there. Maybe I should put that in the chat. Mark, can you put that in the chat? Please give the world more of your art and love. Oh, Bridget wants us to give. That would also be in Bandcamp. But but Michael's always creating new music.
Always. Yeah, on my
YouTube.
on my YouTube, there are a lot of meditations. I have this playlist, Winter Solstice playlist, and actually Amy is featured on there. Amy Keatsman. There's Amy. Hi, Amy. Yeah, so there's some really very spiritual meditations there, and there's some other different kinds of music that I'm doing right now, actually with Mark, who's our Zoom driver.
What a fabulous musician Mark is.
Yes.
He's a master of the chord.
Mhm.
Michael, you have a question here. Michael, can you put into words how or why Bach in particular speaks or communicates? I once chose Brandenburgs to accompany poetry reading and couldn't explain why.
Yeah.
So another
wow.
Bach lover.
Yes. I can't put it into words. That's just it. That's the magic of the music. I mean, seriously, it's just so what music does for me, and I think for all of us, is something beyond words. And Bach's music is it affects so many aspects of our body, our mind and our spirit. It just goes all throughout. And I also have online. I have an album called Breathing with Bach.
Oh yeah.
Which is the very slow movements of unaccompanied Bach, accompanied, and we go through the various chakras, and I have a yogi reverend accompanying it, and it's very special, and I think it really illustrates the powerful aspect of Bach's music, and just how it's beyond music. It's more than music. Music more than music. That's what I always think. Music is more than music. And that's what Bach really signifies.
Frequency.
It's all about the frequency. Yes.
Sylvia says she listens to Bach every morning. She loves the cello suites.
Yes, beautiful.
And Bach was great at math, Annalisa says.
Yes.
There's wonderful patterns woven throughout his pieces.
That's right.
And, I'm on the esoteric side. So I have heard that Bach was really from Pleiades, like from a whole nother planetary system. And they said that if you listen to his fugues with headphones on for 24 hours, then you will understand the meaning of the universe. I haven't tried it. Somebody out there should. Anybody? Thank you so much. You are so welcome. Reverend Rhetta, everyone is saying thank you to you. You have been an incredible guide this evening.
Thank you so much. It hasn't been hard. You all are just wonderful to be in conversation with you, especially now, right, on this eve, on Dr. King's birthday, on the eve of this big celebration, to be able to turn our attention together and be in conversation with you is very, very meaningful. So I want to thank you for inviting me to join you. Yeah.
Maybe we should close out with a little violin.
Oh my gosh.
I always have my violin
You
right
can't keep
beside
a
me.
violinist down. Okay. So do you need to do anything about the sound?
I don't know.
No, Mark said it sounded good, actually.
What should we
Okay,
do?
let me move away to
Should
give
I
you a
play
little
some Bach
space.
or a meditation?
Let me give you some space for that arm.
All right. But you can stay with me. So.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I didn't know what was going to come out, but a little bit more Bach doesn't hurt
Beautiful.
anyone, right?
Beautiful. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.